Turning the heat on full blast in the middle of summer might sound completely insane, but some drivers swear it could save your engine from total failure if it starts overheating. The real story is more complicated than that. This hack does buy you time, but not always safely. In 60 seconds, you'll know if this fix is a genius emergency move or the biggest mistake you could ever make under the hood. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. How can blasting the heat on the hottest day of the year possibly save your car from overheating? At first, it sounds like the opposite of what you should do. You're sweating, the sun is beating down, and your air conditioning feels like the only thing keeping you alive. Yet according to a viral tip that's been circulating on Reddit for years, cranking your heater to full blast isn't about your comfort. It's about your engine's survival. The idea is simple. Turn your cabin into an oven, and in the process, you give your motor a fighting chance to cool down. The core of this trick comes down to how your car's heating system is designed. What most people don't realize is that the warmth you feel from your vents doesn't magically come from electricity alone. It comes from the engine itself, specifically the heater core, which is like a small radiator tucked inside your dashboard. When you switch on the heat, you're actually redirecting hot coolant from the engine through that heater core. A fan then blows over it, sending that heat into your cabin instead of letting it build up under the hood. In theory, that can pull enough degrees away from the motor to stop the temperature gauge from climbing higher. Plenty of drivers swear this method has saved them when they were out of options. You'll see countless stories online of people saying it kept their cars alive long enough to limp into a rest stop or roll into a mechanic's lot right before total failure. But at the same time, the comments are split. For every person saying, "It worked for me," there's another warning others not to trust it. Some even argue it's downright dangerous because turning the heater on doesn't fix whatever actually caused the overheating. Instead, it only buys a few precious minutes of relief. That tension between life-saving and misleading is why this hack stirs such debate. Picture this. You're on a quiet stretch of highway in the middle of nowhere. The dashboard gauge creeps higher, climbing into the red. There are no gas stations, no repair shops, and not even another car in sight. That's when the hack feels like a miracle. By roasting yourself in sweltering heat, your engine gets just enough cooling to reach the next exit. In a situation like that, it's easy to see why so many drivers cling to the idea. But science doesn't lie, and neither do cracked cylinder heads. Overheating is one of the fastest ways to destroy an engine. The metal inside expands under extreme temperatures, which can warp heads and seize moving parts. If the heat keeps building, gaskets blow. In worst-case scenarios, the block itself cracks. These aren't minor issues. Repairs for damage like that often run into the thousands. More money than many cars are even worth. Simply pushing forward while the warning light flashes is gambling with the most expensive part of your vehicle. That's why the heater trick, while clever, should never be confused with an actual repair. At best, it provides a temporary escape, a small window of time to move forward without immediate disaster. Maybe it gets you to a safe parking lot, maybe to a mechanic, or maybe just off the busy freeway shoulder. But that's all it is, a band-aid. If you keep driving like nothing happened, the situation can snowball quickly and leave you with an engine that's beyond saving. So yes, the Reddit hack works within its limits. It transfers heat away from the engine, but it doesn't solve the original problem. The cooling system is failing for a reason, whether it's a broken fan, a leaking hose, or a stuck thermostat. Ignoring those causes just sets you up for a catastrophic failure. That's the reality behind the tip, and the real danger begins when drivers mistake it for a solution rather than a short delay. Because if you choose to press on as if nothing is wrong, what happens next isn't just inconvenient, it's brutal for your engine. What really happens if you push past an overheating warning light? The answer is worse than most drivers expect. Overheating isn't just a temporary nuisance, it's the beginning of actual destruction inside your engine. Once temperatures climb out of the safe zone, every second matters. The metals inside expand, and the balance that keeps everything moving smoothly starts to collapse. That easy red line on your dash is a signal that the chain reaction has already begun. Think about what's happening under the hood. Aluminum cylinder heads that should fit flush against the block begin to bow under the strain. Valves that normally open and close at perfect timing can seize in place. When coolant boils, it loses the ability to absorb additional heat, which means the temperatures can spike faster and higher than you expect. push it too far, and the block itself, the heart of the engine, can split from the stress. A crack there is almost always a death sentence for the motor. What you're left with is not a car with a minor issue, but one facing a repair bill that may exceed the actual value of the vehicle. There's no shortage of real-world stories proving this point. One driver shared how a failed water pump left his engine struggling on a long trip. Instead of stopping when the temperature rose, he tried to push through. The result was a warped head and major internal damage. His repair bill? $3,000, just to bring the motor back into working condition. In hindsight, that single choice to keep driving ended up costing more than towing the car and fixing the pump ever would have. Stories like this are not rare. They're the reality when drivers ignore those warning signs. The scary part is that the actual causes of overheating aren't always dramatic. Something as simple as a thermostat sticking closed can cut off coolant flow. A cooling fan that fails to switch on at idle can turn normal traffic into an oven for your engine. Leaking hoses drain fluid quietly until there's not enough left to keep temperatures stable. Even a clogged catalytic converter can raise heat by creating back pressure, stressing both the exhaust and cooling system. Each of these problems can start small, but without attention, they accelerate into engine damage that feels sudden and catastrophic. Now, this creates another problem in traffic. If you kill the engine completely just to stop the heat, you immediately lose power steering and power-assisted brakes. That means controlling the car at low speeds or stopping in an emergency becomes much harder. It's why shutting everything off in the middle of rush hour is not always as safe as it looks. So what can you do if you're trapped in stop and go with the temperature gauge climbing? According to advice from shops like Cardenas Auto, shifting into neutral and gently raising the RPMs can help while you're sitting still. That extra airflow through the radiator fans buys you a bit of breathing room until you can roll forward again. It isn't a full solution, but in slow-moving traffic, those small adjustments make difference. The reality is plain. Temporary actions provide short respites. Ignoring the underlying issue ensures catastrophic damage, usually paired with a repair invoice no driver wants, which leaves the bigger picture. How do you know when it's time to rely on an emergency trick and when it's time to stop altogether? That answer decides whether you save your car or lose it forever. The 60-second trick is real, but it's not a repair. It's an emergency tool, a way to move your car to safety without letting the engine destroy itself. That's where most drivers get it wrong. They treat a band-aid like a cure, and that mistake can cost thousands. The smart move isn't ignoring the warning signs, it's respecting them. Use the hack if you must, but only to reach a safe spot. Then shut it down, get it inspected, or call for a tow. Because in the end, the wisest driver isn't the one who pushes further, it's the one who stops.